Hey everybody, welcome to the 10-minute book talk. Katherine Reay here, and we are so excited you're with us. Rachel Linden, Marie Bostwick, and I are all here with one of our favorite writers, Eliza Knight. Eliza has written
Hey,
Confessions
Eliza.
of a Grammar
Yay!
Queen, and I got to blurb this book, so I got to read it early, and I had so much fun. And you're going to have an amazing time too. So, Eliza, welcome, and please tell us about your new book.
Thank you so much for having me back, guys. I love coming on your show and chatting about books with all of you. You're all so wonderful.
Oh,
Confessions of a Grammar Queen is about a young woman in the 1960s. She works in publishing. She's a copy editor, but she has aspirations of becoming the first female CEO of a publishing house. Unfortunately, it's sort of a male-dominated sphere at that point in time, and she's going up against not only a boss who is quite a chauvinist, but there are some coworkers who really don't want her to succeed as well. So she ends up joining a secret book club that meets after hours at the New York Public Library, and they all really inspire each other to ask for raises and promotions within the workplace. And in the meantime, she also has her trusty Great Dane Frank, who supports her and has his own chapters with his own little funny snippets.
I love this.
That's adorable.
Well, I'm all about the 1960s and writers, so this is just right up my alley for sure. But this is kind of a pivot for you, a little bit of a departure. So tell us about that and where you got the inspiration for this wonderful story.
Sure. So I have previously mostly written just biographical fiction, and I've really enjoyed doing that. So this story is inspired by several women in history, one of whom's Eleanor Gould Packard. She was the grammarian working for the New Yorker magazine in the 1960s up through the 90s. And then Phyllis E. Gran, who was the first female CEO of a publishing house. She got her start in publishing as an editor in the 50s and then became the first female CEO not until the late 80s, actually. But they trailblazed the path for women to work in publishing, and they were very inspiring. So I wanted to share their stories, but I wanted to do it with a fictionalized character, and that's how I came up with Bernadette. In fact, I was on book tour for another book, and I was listening to the radio, and Taylor Swift's song "The Man" came on, and I just was totally digging this song because it's about like, if I were a man, it would be okay if I did this, but since I'm a woman, she says a bad word. And it's true. Like, I mean, women have been suffering through that for decades. So I thought, well, that's interesting. I might want to, see if how I can do something like that with these women. And Bernadette's last name is Swift, which is paying a little
Ah,
respect to Taylor Swift. And also on that book tour, I was in New York and took a tour of the New York Public Library and got to see a lot of really cool things. And I thought, I've got to incorporate this somehow. And back to Frank. So I was at a bar in Ohio. My daughter used to go to college there. She graduated last year. And this Great Dane walked in, like he seriously owned the bar. He was walking up, greeting patrons. They were like, "Oh, hey, Frank, good to see you tonight." And this is the dog. And I was like, what in the world? So, of course, we had to, introduce ourselves to this dog. And he was just like the mayor of the town or something. It was so funny. And I just thought, this dog has a great personality. And I had been working on my book, The Queen's Faithful Companion, which also had a dog point of view. And I thought, you know what? I have got to incorporate this dog into the next book. And it just seemed to fit so perfectly with Bernadette.
I
Oh
love
my
that.
gosh.
We never know where these ideas will come from, do we? I
They
love
sort of
that.
come all over the place, just like
Yeah.
combined. I was like, wait, okay, and then this, and this could be part of it. And
And that you were in a bar in Ohio when Great Dane walked in. Love that origin
I feel
story.
like that's the
So I
start of a
feel
joke.
right.
It
It
is.
does sound like the start of a joke. A
It is.
Great Dane walks into a bar.
Yeah.
Um, but so you know, this is so you have been doing biopic, which is like biofic, whatever you call
Violet.
it. And that takes intense research. But I'm sure you're still writing something historical because it's set in 1960s and the world of New York publishing, which I'm assuming was not just readily at your fingertips that you knew all these things about 1960s New York publishing. So how did you go about researching and what was something surprising you learned during your publishing journey in your public researching the publishing journey?
So yeah, I have never written in the 1960s. I didn't live during the 1960s. So I had to do a lot of research on the culture. A lot of that is like music and what's going on politically. You know, we had in 1963 the Equal Pay Act come out, which is one of the things that Bernadette is trying to get her boss to understand. Like, I am deserved of this equal pay. And then you've also got civil rights things going on, the start of the Vietnam War. And so there's a lot of like things like that that I wanted to incorporate into the book just to create the atmosphere. But as far as publishing goes, things were way different than they are right now. So it just took a lot of like going back and finding interviews of people who used to work during that time. And I also am not a copy editor, and really grateful to have a copy editor because I'm terrible at that stuff. So I had to research copy editing. And one of the books I read was called Between You and Me. And it's, I think the subtitle is Confessions of a Comma Queen, which is where I kind of got the title of my book. And
that's cute.
Yeah, it's a really actually great book. If you guys like to read books about writing, I would totally suggest reading that one. But she has a lot of history about publishing and writing and things in there as well. So I got a lot of inspiration from that book as well. And just, you know, diving down all those paths, researching Phyllis's life, researching Eleanor Gold-Packard's life. They have interviews about them as well. So it was just a lot of like digging down various paths to try to figure out what the story was going to be and how to make it, you know, visible on the page and feel like it's coming alive, but also stick to Bernadette's story as well, which is fictional.
I love that. Okay, so you know where I'm going to go with my question, because everybody, you have to meet my Great Dane, Duke.
Aww.
So
Duke is
I have to talk about Frank, of course, because I adore my Great Dane. So what, I mean, I love, you mentioned earlier how he was going to fit into the story, but what I really want to know is, for readers, how he fits into Bernadette's life, because that is an amazing relationship that you bring out. And it's sort of like, you know, a woman on the forefront and doing some extraordinary things, and the dog who supports her. So just like give a little more into that, because it's a great relationship.
Sure. So everybody who's read my books, there's always a dog in every book. I love books, or dogs and books. But I just think like dogs are such great companions. And I love when you can give them sort of like human instincts to be that friend and that supporter. And I think dogs really do understand our feelings and our emotions, which is part of what Frank's purpose is in the story, is to kind of see Bernadette from an outside view, and from a humanized view of what she's got going on. But also his chapters provide some levity as well. You know, he's silly, he gets the zoomies, and, you know, but it's not called zoomies back then, it was frenetic energy. And so he's, you know, providing sort of like that comic relief almost, but also seeing some of her outside emotions that she might not be able to say herself. But on top of that, he has his own, you know, he's the mayor of the town. It's just like that dog I met in Ohio. So he sneaks out of the house when she goes to work, and he helps out, you know, kids who are being bullied or kids who are lost. He's got friendships with people in town. And he's just, you know, funny like that. And he also has a rivalry with a cat, which I didn't have that experience at the time, but now my daughter who lives with us has a cat. And so my dog and her cat like have the same, like where they're staring at each other, and you could almost hear the conversation going on. But he's, you know, he's just silly. He's providing some levity, but also he has an important job. I don't want to spoil it, but at the end, he kind of helps her take down someone who deserves it. And I had to put that in there for funniness, but also the man's getting what he deserves. So.
He is. Fantastic. Well, Eliza, thank you for joining us today. And before we let you go, though, we always ask one particular question, and that is, what is bringing you joy today?
Ooh, joy today. I think the sun. It's been raining a lot lately, and today it's really, really beautiful out. And so I'm going to go take a walk in nature, which is one of my favorite things to do.
I love it. That's
love that.
fabulous. Good. Will you hold up your book again?
Yes, of course.
All right, everybody, Confessions of a Grammar Queen is out now. So go run, purchase a copy, buy a copy for a friend. Enjoy this story. Enjoy the Great Dane Frank, and just have so much fun with it. And Eliza, thank you again for being with us. And thank you all for being with us as well.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.